It's been now a few days since my father's passing. The first few days was terrible, and I felt suicidal at one point. It wasn't a clear thought. It was a confusion, a bombardment of so many thoughts, emotions, feelings, physical as well. You know, not eating, not sleeping, feeling sick, nausea, and nervous. It's like you just want to bail out. It's just too much. Basically, it feels like you're dying.
Only 4 hours.
I cried a lot, and at one point I realized if I continue like this, my destination is with my dad, because it's going to kill me. I was feeling ill. The crying, the amount of crying that I was doing, and the crying wasn't just a superficial crying. It was a very deep cry that I can't explain. That's the only way I can explain it. A very deep cry, and it really taxed me. Those emotions really were deep. That's the only way I can explain it in my own strange way, my own silly way. And I started having stomach problems, nausea. My heart was palpitating. I just felt generally unwell. I've never known what real sorrow is, or mourning. With my mum, I think because there's many reasons, but I didn't feel the same. I felt terrible for the first few days, 3 days, and it seems to be, I'm feeling, I wouldn't say better, but not as bad as the first few days. I explained this to my cousin, and he asked me a question, and I was wondering. He asked me, "Why do you feel so bad about your dad, and you didn't feel as bad as when your mum passed away?" It's not that I didn't feel bad when my mum passed away. I felt it was the day that my mum passed away in my arms. It was I've always said it's the worst day of my life. I've never experienced anything like that. just to give you an example, my mum was on acid suppressant medication. I was on 3 times the amount that she was on, in that period. I just couldn't handle the stress, this pain in my stomach. I just felt terrible. So I've thought of a few things. Time spent with my parents. First of all, I've always thought that I'm closer to my mum and I love my mum more. And it's true. When she was alive, I was really close to her. My dad was most of the time working. I never really saw him so much. But when I did see him, I was happy to see my dad. He's my dad. As I've said before, I was really, really thankful for the little time that I spent together. That where he took me out. I remember there were 2 or 3 occasions where he took me out. Once was a pantomime. I didn't really like it, but I liked the fact that my dad took me there. In 1974, he took me to see The Man with a Golden Gun in it's a cinema, a movie, a James Bond movie. And he fell asleep, I remember. Poor guy, he must have been tired, from working all the time. And then his son was pushing him to watch this cool film. It must have been advertised everywhere. And the third time, I think, he took me to wrestling in the Royal Albert Hall in London. Fake wrestling with a Big Daddy, Giant Haystacks, all those famous guys. So funny. I don't know if Mick McManus was there or other famous wrestlers. And I think, we went out as a family, but I mean, just me and him. We went out as a family, we went to the seaside a few times, I remember, with another family, but just me and him. I think 3 times we went somewhere. He never took me horse riding or, I don't know, fishing or anything like that, because, he didn't do those things. So going back to, why is it I felt this way about my dad, such strong emotions? Well, as I said, as I was going to say, the first thing is time spent with my dad. 55 years of age, and my mum passed away when I was 36 or 37, something like that. So I had more time with my dad. 37, 47, 57, that's 18 years more. That's a long time, At 55, you're more mature than when you're 37. You think about life differently. Another thing is maybe guilt. My mum passed away. She wasn't in a care home. Like for us, for Italians, if you take your parent to a care home, people will think badly, of your family, of the kids. They'll say, they just fobbed him off, or her. When that wasn't the case, it was really difficult to look after my dad. It became so stressful, and then you needed 2 people to look after him. And we did hire a carer to stay in the house so he could stay with us. But then he ended up needing 2 carers and more professional help, not just the carer that we got from China. We needed a proper carer. So unfortunately, he ended up in the care home. But I still thought in the care home, he could still live a long time there. He's looked after. We come and see him, especially myself and Salvatore, kids, family, But he lasted, or he lived for, say, 3 years. Was it 3.5 years in the care homes? Which is great. But so I'm just thinking about the reasons, like guilt, for example. So as I said, so maybe the guilt of sending my father to the care home, whereas my mum, she didn't spend any time in the care home. She spent the time at home. My dad was looking after her in Sicily, and then he called me when she was ill. I went to see her, and then I went back. And then he called me again when she was, end of life.
I don't think you can see her. It's on the highway.
So I did spend time with my mum, of course. But it wasn't the same situation. She had family members would come and see her. My dad was there.
Okay.
It was at home as well, you know. Whereas my dad stayed in a care home. So maybe I just feel guilty, maybe, you know. Also, there's the fact that, you know, during the dying process, I was alone in the room with my dad,
Perhaps.
and you know, whereas, I mean, he died peacefully. That's a great thing. Well, that's a thing. It's one thing. One positive, I suppose, if I can even think of anything positive in all this. But God, the police is here.
Where's Mom?
Yeah, so sorry, there was an accident there. So yeah, the process of dying with my mum, all her family were around her. You know, her nieces, or you know, her aunties. An aunt was there, nieces were there, her brother was there, you know, I was there, her husband was there. And you know, it's like we get this in our family, but we get this, I think it's probably everywhere, you know. Men get the hard, the raw deal. How do you call it? The hard deal. I don't know how do you say it? The rotten end of the stick. I'm not sure which phrase to use, terminology to use. But they get the bad deal, you know, because I remember growing up, I never knew or liked my dad's family, and I was so close to my mum's family, or liked my mum's family, and we ended up going to see my mum's parents, you know, my grandparents, and the family, and it's as if they were my extended family. But my dad's family, they were my extended family, but there was less contact. I don't know. We tend to stay closer to the mum's family, or mother's side of the family, and I just feel sad that my dad didn't have that. He was more alone when it came time for, you know, his passing. He only had me. I mean, I'm not saying only, because I think I'm the most important one. Not to big myself up or, you know, massage my ego, but I know that I'm the only one. I put my hand on my heart. I'm the only one who is really crying, who's really suffering, who's deeply suffering. There's nobody else on this earth now alive that is suffering and crying for that human being. Everybody else, yeah, they know, oh, this person's passed away. There's some, like his niece, which is his sister's daughter, she was close to him, and she feels something. She's probably the second, you know, my daughter as well in London, my wife, they feel something, of course. I'm not saying they don't. So, you know, it's right that I'm there. But the thing is, it messed me up a little bit, because I was alone in the room with my dad, and there was no one else to distribute the shock or the pain or the, you know, whereas with my mum, there was loads of people in the room when she passed away. So when she passed away, I just walked out and started crying and went for a walk, and there was other people there to deal with the situation, to dress my mum, and there's so many people there. But with my dad, when he passed away, I couldn't just walk away. I stayed in the room and I hugged my dad. I didn't want to walk away anyway, but because I was the only one there, the decision was kind of made for me. I had no choice. I don't know why I feel the way I do about my dad. Those are some of the reasons why I feel so strongly. And I always thought, oh, you know, my mum is the person I was closer to, I loved more, you know, well, I don't know about more, but loved differently to my father. You know, she was a nurturing, caring one, you know, whereas my dad was quite rough, quite not very tactful, you know, and sometimes I didn't get on with him. But, you the way I'm feeling now is slightly more than I felt for my mum. I mean, the pain is there. It's just maybe because another reason is my body's older, my brain is older. So, you know, you can't. The amount of stress that you can take when you're in your 30s or 20s is not the same as when in your 50s or 60s. Something that is moderately stressful becomes really stressful on your organs and your body. So maybe, you know, that's it. All plays a role or a part in the way I'm feeling, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So I don't know where the hell I'm going here. I think I'm lost. It's supposed to be diverted to Norwich, to the Tesco's, because that's where we're going. But okay, there's diverted traffic. Let's see. Huh? We're going round in circles. Okay, well, let's go here. We're going into a town here. I think we need the GPS because Daddy's lost. It's nice getting lost.
How is it nice getting lost?
Well, it's an adventure, I suppose. It can be an adventure, so yeah. That's how it's nice to get lost. But when your fuel's running out and you don't know where you are, kind of, I'm not saying I'm panicking, but I want to get that GPS out. So okay, I'll just see where this diverted traffic leads us to. I've never been here before. You too. Me 3 and me 10. Oh, okay, I better stop talking now and start trying to find the way out. It says diverted traffic, but there's no more signs, so the diversion was to this little town here. Where are we? I want to go to Norwich. We're in some kind of small village, so it diverted us to this place here. Sorry guys, I think I'm gonna have to speak to you another time. Let me just take a break. As soon as I find out where I am, I'll be back.